Gratefulness and happiness, they are related, but not the way we may think about them. Usually we think, well, I'm waiting until I'm happy, and then I have a good reason to be grateful for that happiness. Research shows it's the other way around. When we practice gratefulness, when we don't take things for granted, when we let it well up in us, the beauty, the awe, the wonder, how precious life is, we discover ourselves to be happy. So don't wait until you're happy to be grateful. The same thing applies to don't wait to be grateful until your circumstances change. Paul writes the letter to the Philippians from prison. And those weren't the prisons, not even of today. Those were rat holes, locked up. They were just in there in the darkest, most dire circumstances. And he writes the letter to the Philippians out of jail, and he writes, "Rejoice always. Thank God. Live, sing, praise God. Don't give up on that." So your circumstances don't need to dictate your attitude and your way of life. Don't wait until magic, something changes in the circumstances, but look for how can you express gratefulness. What is a treasure? What is precious right here and right now? And that will make all the difference in the world. And that's what actually Paul, in all his letter, all the epistles in the New Testament which are attributed to Paul, every single letter right after he writes, this letter goes to the saints in Philippi and so on, and then he starts with thanksgiving. And he thanks God for them and for their faith and for their generosity, and he thanks God for how they embody beauty and how they do God's work, all of that. Every single letter of Paul starts with thanksgiving, except for one, and that's the people in Galatia. They were really in trouble, so sometimes you just don't start with gratitude. But yes, how do you start your day? How do you start your conversations? How do you start and look at the world? Do you look at it with gratitude, as what is a gift, what is precious, what you are the opportunities, what is there, and how you can engage it? Why does it matter? Well, science shows, and human knowledge and experience shows, what you focus on grows. So if you focus on the negative, if you focus on only the lack and everything, that will grow because you give it more energy, it grows. If you focus on the gift, on what's precious, on what is right there as a gift, you feel gratitude welling up in your heart and in your life. Now thank we all our God. It's a good old German translated into English hymn. It was written by Martin Renkart during the 30-year war in Europe. And the 30-year-long war decimated population by about 50%. So imagine every other person in all of Europe where they were engaged, all the fighting died. And during that time in Eilenberg, where he was a pastor, Martin Rinkart, there was the Black Plague, just like leprosy or Hansen's disease. People just died in addition to all the killing from the war and from the fighting. And he had to bury even one of his own children. He was the only pastor left in that city, in that town. And what does he do? he pens down the hymn, "Now Thank We All Our God." Looking at it with eyes of, this does not make sense. It sounds like schizophrenic, living in two separate worlds, so much destruction. And how can you write and sing and give thanks? Circumstances do not dictate the attitude, your heart, your orientation to life. And if he could write and sing, "Now Thank We All Our God," what about you? What about me? How does it look practically, this giving thanks, this living, being a living thank you in our lives? What can it look like very practically? Well, guess what? If something happens to you or someone, you call 911, don't we all do? Thank God we have that number. You pick up and they ask, "What is your emergency?" And there are people who will show up. There will be firefighters coming. There will be medical emergency services coming. There will be police coming. What you really need, they will be coming. Not to take that for granted. There are people out there who care, who commit their lives, who are volunteers, who step in and say, yes, if someone is hurting, if someone really needs help, we will be coming and going out. And when I hear sometimes the sirens going by, I think like, thank God there are people out there who are going on the ambulance, firefighters, and are out there. Don't take it for granted. Just the awareness of, we have that. What a blessing, what a gift. Another very practical example, and some people practice it, and I have a deep appreciation for that, to have a brief prayer or even just silence before a meal. Just look at your plate. Some people say the briefest grace or prayer before the meal is take your plate, lift it up, and say grateful. That's all it takes, just grateful. Not to take it for granted that we have plates, and usually we have enough to eat. Anyone here who does not have enough to eat? Actually, we have more than enough, don't we? So not to take that for granted. Very simple. What about challenges of life? What about hardships? Can we be grateful for them too? That's a tough one, isn't it? When I think of myself, I have grown from challenges. I've learned, I've evolved, I've discovered things about myself and about people around me I never would have without challenges, without struggles, without frustrations and all. So while I may not be grateful for the challenges themselves, I'm grateful for all that I've grown from, that I've learned from, that I've overcome, and that I'm here able to minister together with you. So it may not be the hardship itself that we're grateful for, but what can come from it. What if, in our gospel reading, the true healing of those who were struggling with leprosy, with the skin disease, with the disfigurement of Hansen disease, what if the real healing was not just the healing of the disease, but what if the real healing was the healing from ingratitude? Because Jesus lifts that one up who turns around and says, thank you. When and how do you express gratefulness? How do you live gratefully? Not just on Thanksgiving Day, but throughout your life. How do you practice gratefulness?